If we turn back the clock to the Middle and Late Triassic, in the eyes of the true prehistoric behemoths, early dinosaurs weren't even worthy of being called opponents. They were merely a bunch of moving scraps of meat, fleeing in panic through the crevices. The Earth at that time was simply unfit for survival. All the landmasses were joined together, forming an incredibly massive supercontinent, Pangaea. The interior was an endless superdesert, where not a drop of rain fell for decades. Daytime surface temperatures could literally bake blood dry. And when the climate experienced a drastic shift, it brought a continuous torrential downpour lasting 2 million years, known in history as the Carnian pluvial event. Under these extreme conditions, like an alien purgatory, the true bosses ruling the continent were a group of prehistoric gangsters with crocodile heads. Sprinting across the land, the Pseudotsuchians. For example, the Phaseolasuchus, approaching 10 meters in length, clad in heavy bulletproof-like armor, with a mouthful of saw-like teeth resembling a cutting machine. They were veritable terrestrial main battle tanks, leaving nothing but devastation in their wake. Under the crushing weight of these heavily armored tanks, the founding fathers of dinosaurs, like the Eoraptor, lived an utterly humiliating existence. Less than 1 meter long, weighing a mere 2 or 3 kilograms, with no feathers, no armor, and no fangs. In the menu of the Triassic overlords, this thing wasn't even qualified to be considered prey. At best, it was a trivial after-dinner snack. In a fight, it had zero chance of winning. Its defense would shatter at a mere touch. Faced with absolute martial suppression, dinosaurs, in order to merely survive, were forced to max out a survival skill that would later become legendary: bipedal sprinting. Since they couldn't fight, they poured all their talent points into fleeing. Once their forelimbs were freed from crawling, the physical structure of dinosaurs began an incredibly hardcore fundamental overhaul. In pursuit of ultimate speed, they were ruthless to themselves, literally hollowing out their entire skeletons. Cut open the fossils of early dinosaurs, and inside, it's densely packed with honeycomb-like cavities. This skeletal pneumatization made them as light as a hollow model. What's even more insane is that they developed an air sac system far ahead of its time. This wasn't just a respiratory organ, it was a high-powered biological water-cooling fan. During inhalation and exhalation, fresh air circulated through the lungs twice, while the big brothers in the scorching Triassic heat would overheat after running just a few steps. Dinosaurs could sprint desperately under lethal temperatures, running for their lives, never lacking oxygen, never crashing. Hollow bones with built-in cooling, running on 2 legs. This marginalized species at the bottom of the food chain became prehistoric Earth's strongest track and field athletes. By scavenging on the scraps of bone and bugs, they sprinted wildly through the crevices, enduring for a full 30 million years. If the script of evolution continued like this, dinosaurs would only ever be fit to linger in the shadows of the behemoths, gasping for breath. But at nature's gambling table, there are no eternal winners. 30 million years of suppression finally awaited the most brutal culling in Earth's history. A prehistoric robbing the rich to feed the poor. 201 million years ago, at the Great Reshuffle at the end of the Triassic, the true Judgment Day had arrived. Pangaea tore apart, and the Central Atlantic magmatic province ripped the crust open. Millions of cubic kilometers of magma turned the Earth into a gas chamber. Global temperatures skyrocketed instantly, and acid rain scoured the land. In this apocalyptic catastrophe, the Pseudotsuchian overlords faced their most desperate execution. Their proud, massive size and heavy armor now became their most fatal chains. Their energy consumption was too high, and they ran far too slowly. As their prey died off in mass, these heavy tanks could only collapse in batches amidst extreme heat and starvation, until they were entirely wiped out. When the volcanic ash cleared, the surviving dinosaurs looked around and were shocked to discover that the throne of the entire Earth had been emptied. In that moment, the shackles shattered. Genes suppressed for 30 million years spiraled completely out of control. Taking over the land, the dinosaurs launched a 160 million year long, incredibly bloody and entirely unhinged flesh and blood arms race in Earth's history. This was a life-and-death evolutionary gamble, with no rules and no way back. The only goal was to put the other side on the menu. To survive, the plant-eating branches first did something that defied the laws of physics. They astoundingly discovered that the hollowed-out bones their ancestors used to flee actually harbored a cheat code to break the biological size limits. Because their bones were lightweight enough, containing honeycomb-like air sacs, they could completely ignore the constraints of gravity. In just a few tens of millions of years, the descendants of the once sub-1 meter Eoraptor inflated like balloons, expanding into towering buildings of flesh and blood. Titanosaurs, stretching up to 40 meters long and weighing nearly 100 tons, these colossal titans made the very earth tremble as they walked. Relying on hollow bones and powerful air sac cooling systems, they supported these massive bodies that defied physical limits. Every day, like giant lawnmowers, they devoured mountains of food. They didn't need brains. Their sheer size was the most invincible, absolute defense. But not all herbivorous dinosaurs chose to grow larger. Some branches, to counter predators, maxed out their defensive capabilities. For instance, the Ankylosaurus, they completely abandoned speed and from head to tail were entirely covered by heavy armor plates. Resembling a medieval knight, completely encased, even their eyelids evolved bone plates for protection. They literally transformed themselves into mobile biological tanks. What's more terrifying is that the tip of their tail was a heavy bone club, fused from several pieces of bone. A single swing of this club could instantly shatter the bones of a T-Rex. They were the most impregnable and deadliest fortresses on Earth. And this boundary-breaking massiveness, along with hardcore defenses that even a meteorite would struggle to pierce, in turn, pushed the carnivorous dinosaurs at the top of the food chain to an absolute dead end. Faced with these living fortresses, as heavy as mountains and as hard as bulletproof steel plates, all previous hunting techniques became obsolete. To survive, the carnivorous branches were forced to initiate a frantic arsenal upgrade. They took the bipedal standing structure that evolved for fleeing and completely refitted it, attaching steel cable-like, insanely powerful muscle groups. And those hind legs, once used just to survive, evolved into hunting engines capable of instantly bursting with hundreds of horsepower, propelling multi-ton bodies into an immediate sprint. To lock onto prey mid-sprint, their brains underwent a living radar-like upgrade. Their olfactory centers were astonishingly large, allowing them to clearly detect, from kilometers away, the faintest scent of blood in the air and the desperate gasps of their prey. And that mouth, once only good for scavenging scraps and chewing insects, was continuously elongated over the river of time, reinforced and thickened to breach the armor of an Ankylosaurus or crush the bridge pier-like leg bones of a Diplodocus. Their skulls were supremely fortified, and their neck muscles evolved to be as robust as hydraulic pistons. Finally, at the end of the Cretaceous period, 66 million years ago, at the finish line of this flesh and blood arms race, they gave birth to the ultimate tyrant, capable of instantly unleashing tons of bone-crushing force, able to chew straight through the hardest bones and bulletproof shells, turning them into mere debris. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, the once defenseless bottom-tier prey, had fought its way up, becoming the absolute overlord ruling the land for 160 million years. The rise of the dinosaurs is a hardcore history of striking back, pushing survival instincts to the extreme, flipping the entire table, and using flesh and blood to shatter physical limits. Today, when you are in a museum, looking up at those breathtaking giant skeletons, don't forget how their ancestors shivered in the mud. Nature spent 160 million years proving a cold, hard truth. In the merciless gamble of evolution, the one who has the last laugh is often not the most arrogant bully at the start, but the survivor who can endure the most, adapt the best, and fights desperately to live on, even when at the absolute bottom. Only by outlasting your opponents do you earn the right to become a god.